Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. First of all, I do want to clarify that I do understand 22x is not 2 orders of magnitude. On the last episode, my brain completely shut off momentarily. So apologies on that one. Thank you everybody for pointing it out. But 2 orders of magnitude is indeed 100x, not 20x. Now, with that out of the way, unfortunately for the next few minutes, I just need to sit here and say some things. And to explain where this is coming from, you guys know I usually am so looking forward to Tesla's earnings call to get a peek behind the curtain to learn a bit more about this company that most of us enjoy so much. However, throughout this weekend and heading into this week, something was just different for me, and initially I couldn't put a finger on it until eventually I did. And the short of it, I came to the unfortunate conclusion that I can no longer trust what Elon says. And I'm not just talking about adding an Elon timeline multiplier to the timelines that he gives. I mean, his credibility, and by default Tesla's, because he is a reflection of Tesla, at least for me personally, is at an all-time low. Now, I have to say right here, based on how I know the Tesla community responds, I in no way am doubting Tesla's future dominance. I am in no way doubting that at some point in the future they will hit the scale everybody is waiting for. I have not sold any shares, nothing has changed from my long-term Tesla investment thesis, but I can no longer sit idly by on the sidelines and watch all of the sycophancy in the Tesla community while effectively no one is calling out the people, hint hint Elon, that need to be called out. And truly for me, this has nothing to do with Tesla stock. I don't care what it does in the short term at all, but it has everything to do with the credibility of Elon himself and of Tesla. And for a company that is doing such amazing things, I and we all should hold Tesla to a higher standard. And the things I'm talking about here are marketing 101. Just under promise and over perform. It's not complicated. And just so you know where this is coming from, this weekend I sat down and took some time to go back and research what Elon actually said over the past year about robotaxi, and I wanted a refresher to know how good or how bad those predictions actually were. Was anything perhaps taken out of context? Was anything missed? So going into this earnings call and future ones, I have a better understanding of how to discern whatever is mentioned on the call and how much weight to attribute to it. And I'll zip through this because I'm assuming most of you have already seen my post on X that's over 250,000 views with no Elon interaction. But listen, the only reason I am mentioning this at all is because clearly it struck a chord with the broader Tesla community. Actual quotes from Elon on just a few recent quarterly calls. Q2 last year, Elon said, "I believe half the population of the US will be covered by robotaxi by the end of the year." The reality, not even close. Q3 last year, he said, "We do expect to be operating robotaxi in, I think, about 8 to 10 metro areas by the end of the year." The reality was 1. Q3 last year, "We expect to be operating in Nevada, Florida, and Arizona by the end of the year." The reality, none. And Q4 last year, in terms of taxi vehicles carrying paid customers, I think we're well over 500 at this point between the Bay Area and Austin. This will probably double every month type of thing. The reality, that number stayed flat and the unsupervised number is much smaller. And I will say this was not an exhaustive list. And as I said, we're all humans, we all make mistakes, we all will get timelines wrong. But when you do, as a public company, it is in your best interest to give an explanation for what went wrong. And so far, by and large, for all of these timelines that Elon and Tesla have put out there, they have not given a sufficient explanation or expressed any sense of remorse for giving such misleading expectations to investors. And guys, I would hope at this point you know, I don't do the drama, not personally, not publicly. I would not waste your time with it. But in this case, I want to expose what's going on with a non-trivial amount of the Tesla community. Holmars responded to that post saying, "You don't have to believe him, only your own eyes," sharing a video of FSD. Now, I don't know how much of my work he's familiar with, but at a minimum, he's followed me for some time. I think he knows how familiar I am with FSD and its performance. Which is what I said, and I added, "But the tech being mostly excellent is not an excuse to say say whatever you want to investors. It's just not a good look for Elon or Tesla, and if you can't admit that, then ultimately that's on you. And then Holmar said, they're putting real driverless cars on the road. If you want, you can go get mad about Elon saying they would do a coast-to-coast drive in 2018, or you can marvel at the fact that today multiple customers have done it in their own cars. It's an IQ test and many are failing. And so of course I had to respond saying that one, not a single point he made was actually a direct response to any point I was originally making. Not anywhere did I say Tesla's not putting driverless cars on the road. But again, that fact does nothing to excuse Elon from continually making very poor predictions to investors and the public. And truly, I have zero anger toward Elon. I'm just overall disappointed by his seeming lack of judgment for the fallout that his public predictions that have not come true are causing. I said nothing about Elon's commentary about a 2018 coast-to-coast drive. And as you guys know, over the years, I've often marveled at FSD. But my point is, none of that means that we should just gloss over all of these public predictions that Elon is making terribly. So my point in sharing any of this, in my opinion, there is a very unhealthy and unproductive sycophancy streaming through the Tesla community, and I know tens of thousands of people are nearly daily listening to some of this output. And in no way am I trying to tell anybody who to follow. I would never do that. But ask yourself honestly, are the people you following actually calling out any of this behavior that I think we should all agree deserves being called out? Again, if Elon made a mistake and one day was feeling overly optimistic, okay, we're all human. Maybe a single moment of hubris, okay, you get a pass. But this situation we're talking about is not that. This is a year plus of a trend of very poor, inaccurate predictions, with very little and next to no explanation given for the reasons for the failures. And I hope you all know where this is coming from. I love Tesla the company, and never in my life did I think I'd be the person expressing love or this type of emotion for a company. But here we are, and it's just such a shame to see so many thousands of people so frustrated and upset with Elon and Tesla, and in my opinion, this all would have been so easily avoided. If these goals and timelines are so uncertain because this has never really been done before at scale, that's fine, just don't put those predictions out in the public. And I know many of you in the comments will go down there right now and say, but Elon just wants to motivate people and he's an optimistic guy. That's fine, but do that internally direct to the AI team. The public and the investors do not need to hear those timelines. And listen, I'm here for all of the forward guidance that Elon and Tesla want to give. I'm just saying at this point, even if they give it, I don't think we can believe it. And so that's why I'm so conflicted and emotionally charged up today, because going into this call on Wednesday, of course, I'll listen and dive into it like I always do, but after that, I just don't really know what I can actually do with that information. Because in case you've forgotten, it's not just commentary on a call, something off the cuff, but they literally had dates for cities in the slide deck that were later removed and ultimately missed. And I have a lot more to say, but before I just continue on rambling, I think most of us understand the key man risks with Elon. And as the latest research shows, executive targeting incidents have climbed 313% over the past 2 years. And as they said, the target set has now broadened well beyond the C-suite. What that's saying is now anybody with money and a bit of visibility can be a target. Which, yes, is exactly why I'm so eager to continually talk about Delete Me, the sponsor of this video. It used to take a private investigator weeks and thousands of dollars to build a target profile on someone. Now, it takes 10 minutes on these people's search sites. But again, the good news here is Delete Me is how you get out of this database to begin with. They remove your personal information from over 750 people search sites, and they rescan every quarter continuously because these sites are constantly repopulating your data. And don't take my word for it, here are the facts. I've been working with Delete Me for years, but I just got my latest report. In last quarter alone, Delete Me reviewed over 7,200 records tied to my name, found my personal info exposed on 54 unique sites, and submitted removals for all 64 different exposures. And again, this is not a set it and forget it problem, it's a faucet that never shuts off. which is why you need someone watching it constantly. And you can add your spouse, your parents, your kids 16 and up at a discount per person, which matters more than you think because attackers map your family to figure out how to get to you. So if you'd like to support Electrified and protect the people you love, you can head to joindeleteme.com/electrified to get 20% off using my code Electrified linked below, or by using the QR code on the screen. And so picking up with a theme where I left off, Tesla Robotaxi today said the service is now live in Tampa and Orlando. Looking at the geofence sizing, we're looking at anywhere between 15 and 30 square miles for each city. So on one hand, it's great. I'll do a little golf clap for it, and as I always say, I do really want to celebrate even the smallest of milestones. However, I feel like I would be negligent in my duties of presenting the truth if I don't call out the circumstances. This is one day before earnings. And do you remember what happened before the Q1 call? We got a launch for Tesla's Robotaxi service in Houston and Dallas. That was right before the Q1 call, and fast forward 94 days later, and those geofences are still quite small and have between 5 and 10 active vehicles at any given time. And back in Q1, even before the Q1 earnings, I said if we don't see the number of active vehicles in Houston or Dallas in the coming weeks go up beyond 15, maybe to push 20, 30 into 40 plus, then at that point Tesla launching in that city was most likely just a move before earnings to have a talking point for the call and in the slide deck. And sadly, looking back, that seems like exactly what Tesla was doing. And so far today, as you can see with the engagement with this post, the community is not stupid. Yes, there are some large voices in the community that refuse to call out or talk about any of this, and that's their prerogative. But I am not going to be one of those people. And listen, truly, I'm not even trying to make the argument. I think Tesla's trying to manipulate the stock price, because the truth is, I don't think they care in the short term, and they know they don't really have the power to do that. At this point, it's robotaxis in service or Optimus in production doing useful work, and that's really about it. But what I am trying to do is set the proper expectations, because nobody else seems to be doing it. Dallas and Houston 94 days later, and as we know, it's still mostly a pilot beta phase. So yeah, it's great that Tesla's robotaxi is now in Tampa and Orlando, but the all-important question, is it going to remain in this beta pilot phase for another 3 months, with somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 10 vehicles active at any given time? I'm just saying it's already happened twice before, so don't be surprised if something like that happens again. But yes, on a positive note, we do have customer videos coming in that it is indeed unsupervised in both Tampa and Orlando. And sure, the truth is I could spend the next 3 minutes talking about why Tesla operating in Tampa and Orlando is such a great thing. However, it's all a moot point if you only have a handful of vehicles in the service and a geofence at roughly 20 square miles. An update, Bearded Tesla was trying to get a robotaxi ride in Orlando today, but he said not a good start, can't even request a ride. And it's anecdotes like this while I continue to call the service in certain cities a pilot and a beta. So please do not misunderstand me. I am not trying to belittle Tesla's achievements or accomplishments. I am only trying to be a voice that sets realistic expectations for the service and the stock and the company. There will undoubtedly be people saying, look, Tesla's now in 6 cities, scaling is imminent, the floodgates are about to open, enter whatever cliche you want. So I'm just saying, let's understand the context and the nuance here and keep things based in reality. And yes, as far as we can tell, it is still all Model Ys, Cybercab is not yet active. And yes, the Robotaxi tracker is now updated with the 6 live cities, but I have NA for the number of active vehicles for each city, because the truth is we just don't know. We know statewide across Texas, Tesla has 175 vehicles registered, but that tells us nothing about how many are active. And as I said, sadly in Florida, they do not have similar rules like Texas has, so we might not get this database that tells how many vehicles Tesla has registered for Florida. So unless Tesla tells us, we might be in the dark for some time. On a positive note, we're now down to 2 cities that Tesla at one point had in the slide deck, those being Phoenix and Las Vegas. And this takes Tesla to 6 active robotaxi cities. No, I do not count the Bay Area, compared to Waymo active in 11 cities. And FYI, I did update the accident data on the robotaxi tracker. So now it has a breakout of how many of these 22 incidents since launch last year were actually because of the teleoperator. That number is 3 out of 22. And the most recent teleoperator incident was May this year. And important context of Tesla's 22 incidents, 9 of those were caused by other parties, meaning Tesla was not at fault. And I've also added a new tracker so you can see the number of incidents broken down by month, and you can click on each month to get a breakdown of the incidents for that month, and it'll tell you if Tesla was at fault or if another party was at fault. And that's why people said through February and March and April, Tesla had 3 clean months in a row where no incidents were the fault of Tesla. And we did get the data for June. There was only 1 new incident, and yet again, it was not the fault of Tesla. So a clean month, if you will, from that perspective. But now you can clearly see that May was not a clean month, as Tesla had 2 incidents where it was at fault. So I'll continue to update the tracker and try to make it more valuable, and as always, you can find it at dloomis.com. And just for proof, here's video evidence of an unsupervised Model Y robotaxi ride in Tampa, Florida today. And the Tesla AI account did say that our Bay Area rideshare service now goes to the San Francisco airport. And as Zach, an ex-employee, said, incredible. All Tesla needs is a few more cars. They even picked me up right outside baggage claim. No more hike to the Uber lot. And this is only one anecdote, but Anthony said it was $60 for Tesla's rideshare to go from where he lives to SFO. And for the exact same trip, Uber was $50. Now, of course, you have to factor in a tip with the latter. So I'm not going to read too far into this, but I did find this data point interesting. So of course, airport pickup and drop off will be one of the key drivers for robotaxi use and adoption. But we have to remember right now, Tesla in California is basically a taxi limousine service, not a robotaxi. So in California's eyes and in San Francisco airport's eyes, Tesla is not a robotaxi service today. But it's important to highlight, no matter what California does at the top, SFO, the San Francisco airport, is still a separate entity and can set its own rules. So right now, the permit that Tesla has to operate at SFO with a safety monitor is a human driver permit. So when Tesla wants to operate a real robotaxi service at SFO, it has to jump more hurdles. The good news is part of the testing that SFO made Waymo do was operating at the airport with a safety driver. So hopefully SFO will treat what Tesla's doing now as part of that validation. But the main takeaway here, whenever Tesla decides to remove the safety monitor, it's going to need new approvals to continue operating at SFO without a safety driver. Now look, based on my research, I will say it seems like SFO would have the option to either amend Tesla's existing permit to operate at the airport, or the airport could go the route of issuing an entirely new permit when they remove the safety monitor. And just remember, no matter what happens at the state level with the CPUC, the SFO airport can do things independently. And I'm sure many of you have seen it by now, but some genuinely awesome news. Tesla has said officially Starlink V5 is directly integrated into Cybercab. And they show the diagram with the antenna squarely in the middle of the trunk. The official Starlink account said high-speed internet from space for the future of autonomous vehicles. Lead Cybercab engineer said LFG, big shout out to Starlink team on this project. Yoon Tsai said SpaceX handshake Tesla. So I'm sharing these because it's multiple confirmations this is real. And you may have seen some Cybercabs in showrooms where the inside of the trunk has this slot that would seemingly hold the antenna for Starlink. And on this Starlink integration, Ashok said it's still not required for safe operation of the vehicle. Connectivity is primarily meant for navigation, customer service, and in general, fleet management. So to anyone out there currently trying to argue that any Tesla vehicle that wants to achieve unsupervised is going to need Starlink, that is not the case. From a customer point of view, this is really only focused on navigation and customer service. And yes, of course, when you enter LTE dead zones, if you're streaming or listening, this will be a benefit as well. So I didn't think it was possible, but I now desire Cybercabs plural even more. And of course, the natural question becomes, well, will this be an option for the rest of the Tesla lineup in the future? Of course, from a business standpoint, it makes a ton of sense given the synergies between Tesla and SpaceX and the additional sales it would result in for Starlink from Tesla. However, as you can see with these diagrams, this is not just slapping an antenna onto the inside of the trunk. And because there is no glass roof on the Cybercab, it's much easier to hide this and make it aesthetically pleasing. But with a pano glass on the Model 3 and the Model Y, there might not be as elegant of a solution. And I think an overlooked feature of this integration is that Cybercab will now have effectively an always-on uplink to share any data and fleet training over time. So wherever the Cybercab is, even in rural areas with plenty of connectivity dead zones, the vehicle will still have the ability to get that data flywheel going even faster. And do not sleep on the importance of this for remote operations. You saw those 3 situations where a remote operator controlled the Tesla vehicle into an object. And this extra connectivity should help customer service. It could also help with the clarity of the calls when the customer is trying to hear the customer support agent. And further, I think this will only help from a regulatory standpoint because the Cybercab will have that extra layer of connectivity, even in dead zones, to communicate live video footage or telemetry data, perhaps in the event of an emergency. And the last potentially non-obvious benefit of this is I do think there will be some benefits when it comes to the pickup and drop-off experience. In my opinion, that would certainly fall under the navigation and fleet coordination umbrella that Ashok was hinting at. So matching the vehicles with riders in the proper areas at the proper times, handling construction and rerouting and charging and all of that fleet management. So in situations where cell service is limited or congested, this could certainly serve as a release valve in the short term and a potential replacement long term. So I do think there are more ancillary benefits, but as Elon said, watch 4K streaming video while Cybercab takes you anywhere you want. So very simply, I think even the ability to cut out dead zones altogether with traditional LTE would be a meaningful win for Cybercab as it ultimately tries to reach scale where it will eventually operate in more rural, less connected areas. Hardware 3 owners can rejoice as there's a new version of FSD V14 Lite that no longer requires the brake confirmation to start. And this update also has the self-driving app for Hardware 3 vehicles. Let me be clear, not everybody has this yet. It is still in the process of rolling out, but take heart, there is hope. Tesla shared the features of the 2026 summer software release update, and one I've been asking for, Grok, will have more capability. It can make phone calls, search and play music, adjust the climate, open the glove box, and answer questions about your Tesla. The self-driving stats will now be in the mobile app as well. Automatic navigation will adapt to your routine, so your vehicle can suggest and route to places that you visit regularly. Frankly, I feel like without this update, my vehicle does this. It will suggest destinations based on the time of day and where I usually go, and it does quite well. The big one for me though is the new preferred routes. For a more personalized experience, navigation now prioritizes routes that you've taken before. So plenty of questions about the execution of this. Will it be routes that I drive or just routes that FSD suggests and that we ultimately choose? But I am encouraged because in my daily driving, I always have to disengage for the current navigation. So if I could avoid certain intersections or certain turns, this would be awesome. You can set the arrival energy from the mobile app, and there are some more minor updates as well, but this is rolling out to some users now. I would expect a wider release in the weeks to come. And don't forget, Elon did say the car will start to remember your specific interventions and match each person's individual preferences. So again, great in theory, we'll see how it turns out in practice. But just know right now there is a steady drumbeat about the preferences and personalization of FSD to you. And replying to the news about the new preferred routes option, Bob said, I wish I could set my destination in the work parking lot. I have a designated spot and every morning I disengage so I can park in my specific spot. To which Elon said, it's coming soon. So that's on the way. Apparently the ability to audibly speak to FSD to tell it what to do, maybe where to park, that's supposed to be coming. So certainly some exciting and very useful FSD features in the pipeline. Tesla Asia said Grok in the Tesla cars is coming to more Asian markets. And Tesla said Grok is now available in all of Europe. And so please, with this episode, do not let me take away from your enjoyment of Tesla earnings at all. I'm just encouraging all of us to think for ourselves, understand all of this context, and not just take whatever's being said at face value, because I think doing that going forward is now a fool's errand. And as I said on X, the main reason I even shared any of that to begin with was with the hope that Elon would see it and start to consider how his actions are impacting thousands of Tesla investors. I'm just of the camp there's a better way to lead the company, and it's quite simple. Take all of those aggressive timelines, bring them in-house direct to the AI team, put whatever type of pressure you want to on them internally, and then to the public and retail, just under-promise and over-perform. We know what you're doing is incredibly hard. We know you're still scaling faster than Waymo did in the early days. We know you're focused on safety. So just be honest, don't get carried away, and ultimately let the results speak for themselves. So I'm just feeling very called right now to be the person that speaks up for the rational Tesla investor that is currently quite annoyed with prominent Tesla accounts that seemingly refuse to say what I think needs to be said. Tesla and really largely Elon can absolutely do much better with the setting of expectations. And look, if that means Elon never interacts with my X account again, I'm okay with that, because as I always say, for me, the truth is more important than anything else. Don't forget, check out Delete Me links below for anybody that wants to support the channel and, more importantly, protect your family. Hope you all have a great night and a wonderful day tomorrow, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.